This video will demonstrate the Chapter 7 Level 2 case, which begins on page 497. So the first thing that we need to do is download the Sales Access database. So I'm going to click on that to open it. We'll let it open up in Access. Then I need to double click on Sales so that it opens up, and I'm going to maximize the screen. And what we need to do is click on External Data and then click on Excel. And I'm going to tell it to export this table into Excel. So I click on Export Data with Formatting and Options, and I'll click OK. And I'll just click Close. And then I can close my Access database, and now I need to go find that file. So I'm going to just go to Excel, open up Excel. Now I exported that database, and it says I need to go ahead and open that into a worksheet named Sales. So I'm going to go find that, and I happen to save it in, I'll go to where I have it. Okay, and here it is, and I'm going to double click that and let that open up. So it just looks like it did it in Access basically. So now we're going to turn it into a table. So I just need to click in there and then click on Format, and you can check any table in any format that you like. Make sure my table has headers, and click OK. Okay, so now it's in a table format, and I'm going to click on Insert, and then under Tables I have this option for Pivot Tables, and I want to open it as a pivot table. Now it's giving us some choices here, and I have Select a Table or Arrange. It's selecting this table, it's recognizing it automatically, and I do want to go ahead and export it into a new worksheet, and so I will click OK. Alright, so here I get the basis of my pivot table. And on step 3, it tells us to rename this sheet to Austin. So we'll just click down there at the bottom and type in and name the tab Austin. Okay. Alright, on step 4, we need to use the table to analyze the sales by department. So I need sales and I need department. Alright, so that's coming up down here. You can see I've got department coming in down here, and it also says change the number format of the sales data to currency. So I can come over here to Sum of Sales. Under the values, I click on that and go to Value Field Settings, and I need the number format, and I will change that to accounting. And you'll notice when I click those choices that it changes it to a $ format. And then I also need to, it says to, let me see. And so we want the department with the highest sales to appear first. So I'll just come over here into my Sort and Filter. I have this column of information. I can click any of those data points, and then I just want to sort largest to smallest. So when I do that, I can see that Kitchen and Bath had the highest amount of sales. Now it tells us to print the worksheet, but I just want to make a note. So I'm just going to make a note over here, and I'm going to call it, and I'm just going to say step 4, that Kitchen and Bath Now it tells you to print out that worksheet, but since we're doing this for a homework assignment, you can't really do that. So we're just going to leave it like that. Step 4 is Kitchen and Bath had the highest sales. Now I could copy that. And put it into a new worksheet if I wanted. And I'll just paste that. So I have that information there too. Alright, so you can see how that works. I'll just hit Escape to make that go away. Click in here to bring up my pivot table field list again. Alright, so that took care of step 4. Now it says to rearrange, in step 5, rearrange the fields in the pivot table report to analyze department sales by quarter. Alright, so I need a date field. Obviously, if I'm going to get that by quarter, So here's all my dates, but I need to change that so I can see it by quarter. And I'm actually wanting to do something with this date. So I want to move it to a column label. So I get it across this way. So that will look a little more neat that way. So in order to get all of these dates, and you can imagine if you had a whole bunch of dates or data that you were looking at, this could come in really handy. So I'm going to click on any data field, any data point in the dates, and when I do that, you'll notice that this group field becomes populated. When I'm down here, it doesn't. So I'm going to click on any of the points in the date field, and then under options I get this group field. So I'm going to group the field, and I get the choice. I have all these different choices, and I want to do it by quarters, not by months, and I'll click OK. So now I have all of my departments and their quarterly sales, and I also have it totaling by the grand total, and I can see that kitchen and bath had the highest sales, and the quarter that it occurred was in quarter 3. Quarter 3 was the highest sales. So I'm going to make a note over here too, just for my homework, answering each part of the question. And I'm going to indicate that kitchen and bath, highest quarter, occurred in quarter 3. Okay, so we'll click back over here, and that takes care of step 5, and we'll move on to step 6. So it says to add the manager field to the pivot table report to analyze each department's quarterly sales performance by manager. So now I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to get manager in there. Now I can do some different things with this. So I would have to look at each of these individually, but I can do a sort. So once again, I want to sort this with the highest to the lowest, and it will do it within each of those departments because that's how we've got the table set up. So I'm going to just click this data field, click on options, and then I will click on sort largest to smallest again. And you'll notice when I do that, I get the highest amount of grand total sales here, and I can see that John Jacobs in the kitchen and bath had the highest quarterly sales of $39,419. In the electric department, Laura Olson had 41,000, and she had the highest sales in that group. Okay, this will be a good time to do a little bit of formatting with this. If I click on options or I click on design, I get some layout options that I can do with this pivot table. So I kind of want some subtotals. So I'm going to click on subtotals, the down arrow, and I want to show all subtotals at the bottom of the group. I find it confusing to see at the top, and maybe it comes from me working with schools. That's how we see it. So here I have kitchen and bath, and I can see the subtotal here. And you can see that it's doing it for each one of those. Now you can get the same result by playing with this report layout. So take a second and do that. If I click on the down arrow for report layout, you can see what it looks like in compact form. This is kind of how we saw it before. Clicked outside of that. Go back to options, design. So I want the design, and I'm going to choose show in outline form so you can just see how that changes. Here I'll show in tabular form, and this kind of gets you the same thing as what we just did with subtotals. So play with that a little bit and see what you like. So you get some different formats with that. Alright, so the question on step 6 is which manager had the highest sales for each department? Since we sorted, we can see that on step 6, I'm going to move these over a little bit so we can see that better. So I'm going to answer step 6. And the question is which manager had the highest sales for each department, and in which quarter did the manager's highest sales occur? So for step 6, I should just be able to see this, but I'm going to just put a couple for time purposes. So for example, kitchen and bath, John Jacobs, and his sales occurred in quarter 1. And you can just pick out a couple there. I can see electric right there, so I'll say electric, Laura Olson. And we can see that her highest sales occurred in Q3. So you get the idea. By using the pivot table, you can do some sorting and picking out data out of the table, and it lets you see things very quickly and very clearly. All right, so for purposes of your homework, just put a couple of those up there so that I can see that you did that. All right, step 7 of this case says to rearrange the fields in the pivot table report to analyze each manager's quarterly sales performance by department. So if I just click over here on, or just hover over manager here, and I move this up, it changes how my table is being sorted. So I want to see manager first, and then I want to see department. So I can quickly see by doing this who had the highest sales. It's bringing up the manager in that for John Jacobs, and he had the highest sales in the kitchen and bath department. You can see that Laura Olson had the highest sales in the electric department, and this Benjamin person had the highest sales in plumbing. So with this, we can see that John Jacobs had the most sales in kitchen and bath, and Laura Olson had the most sales in electric. So the final question, and this is how you should leave your table, it's the final step of rearranging the pivot table, and we'll just do that. Step 7, it's kind of the same result. We can see that John Jacobs should be the manager for kitchen and bath. And we'll put a couple of more. Laura Olson should be the manager for electric based on her sales. And one more, we'll put Benjamin. Tesner had the highest sales in plumbing. So you get the idea. So the way that this table is left, we can quickly get the information that we're looking for. So the final thing on step 8 is to support your recommendation with data from the pivot table, deciding on which manager should be in charge of which department based on their sales. So this is how a pivot table works. It lets you manipulate data to see certain parts of the data and compare it to other things. And the last thing you should do is go ahead and save this on step 9. Save it as Home Station-Austin as an Excel worksheet.